Yep. Give me a nod when you're ready.
Like
Shooters ready. Stand by.
Hey everyone, welcome to this episode of Bullets and Bourbon. I'm here joined with my co-host Frank Gow, and we have a very good friend of mine, George Dorbert. A lot of people in the three-gun community knows George Dorbert as that guy who has that big smile, one of the friendliest guys that you'll meet on the range. And I have to say, before we even start anything, congratulations on your retirement. 25 years as a firefighter, that's a huge commitment, and that's awesome. And like I said, he spent 25 years as a firefighter, the last 6 years being as a fire investigator, correct?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. And this is the second firefighter in a row that we've had on.
Sure is.
Right. Second responders, way better than first responders.
Tell that to Andy Snyder.
Yeah, we always go back and forth.
Yeah, and then I'm going to be competing with the firefighter this weekend too.
Right on. See, told you.
Yeah. No, but for those that do know him, know that he's one of the friendliest faces and one of the nicest guys, and just really good people to be around. So, George, I really do appreciate you coming on here and really listen. Gonna enjoy just being here and talking to you.
Thank you, Matt. I do appreciate you having me on again. I feel honored because I was on the old Three Gun IQ podcast, and now I'm on Bullets and Bourbon. So I got to do both your shows. So I appreciate that. I appreciate you guys having me on again. Frank, it was very nice meeting you at Matt's retirement ceremony. You had a lot going on, so you probably don't remember me introducing myself, but I just wanted to thank you again for taking the time to talk to me there. And I appreciate you guys having me on here. Thank you for the kind words for my retirement there. It's great to be back on here with you.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I actually do remember you told us that we're doing good with the podcast.
Yeah.
And I remember listening to your episode back when I had aspirations to join the team, and I would just listen to 3GIQ back then, just to get insight into what was going on in the Marine Corps shooting team. So pretty cool that we've come full circle and that you're on the rebranded show. But let's start with the shooting sports. How did you get your start? What discipline did you start in?
Sorry, my air conditioner's kicking on here. So I started in USPSA. I started a local club. I was punching holes in paper at the local range by myself, and I thought there's got to be more to this. So I started to do some research online. I found a club pretty close to me that shot USPSA, so I looked into it a little bit, and I thought, I'm going to do this. I went there. They welcomed me with open arms. They said, "Hey, we appreciate all kind of new shooters." So they didn't force me to join or anything right away. They let me shoot a couple matches, and then they said, "Hey, we're going to start shooting some 3-gun as well." So I thought, well, that sounds pretty cool. It's definitely 3 guns, 3 times the fun, and it kind of evolved from there. And just like anything else, 3-gun has really taken over. I do love all the other disciplines. I like shooting USPSA. I kind of got back into that a little bit again this year. I wanted to, I've got aspirations. Call me crazy, but I thought I want to do whatever I can to train and make the world rifle team for the world shoot next year. So I knew that USPSA was a gatekeeper for that. So I got back in the USPSA this year, started shooting some matches again. I've shot 22 PRS, which has helped my long range game for 3-gun a lot, tremendously. We're very fortunate that there is a really awesome gas gun series in this area. Within a 2-hour driving distance, I could shoot a match of any flavor every weekend if I wanted to, whether it's 3-gun or USPSA, gas gun, PRS, 22 PRS, anything like that. So I'm very fortunate in the area that I'm in that I can travel to all these different local clubs and shoot within a 2-hour time frame there. So very lucky.
Yeah, being within driving distance of that much variety is pretty great.
Yeah.
So, I mean, USPSA and three gun get compared quite a bit. You could take like your favorite thing about each particular discipline and port it to the other. What would you say that would be?
Um, just the camaraderie. Not shooting with a lot of the USPSA folks. Everybody says that, hey, USPSA folks are kind of snobby, and I don't see that. The folks that I've shot with have welcomed me with open arms. They know that I'm not new to shooting, but new to USPSA. So they've helped me with stage plans. They've pointed some things out that you may do in three gun that you're not going to do in USPSA. And I've always shied away from it because the whole DQ thing. Everybody dreads that. Nobody wants to go there and get DQ'd right away for something silly. But I haven't seen that. Even I was fortunate enough to go out to Minnesota a couple weeks ago with my good buddy Ian Narson. We went out there for USPSA multi-gun nationals, and I wanted to shoot that because again, I thought I need to go out here and do this, get this exposure, and I wanted that to help with preparing for like World Shoot for next year. And I got to tell you, it was fantastic. Adam Maxwell and the guys, Josh Erickson, Spencer Marsh, all those guys up there did a fantastic job with creating a welcoming environment for being a USPSA multi-gun, where no one felt like they were walking on eggshells. No one felt like, hey, if we do this wrong, we're going to get DQ'd or anything. So, that for me was eye-opening. I thought it was fantastic. So I'd say that just the camaraderie between the shooting folks in both sports is just fantastic, and that's what I really enjoy. No matter what I go shoot, what discipline, it's hanging out with the folks there and networking and talking to them and meeting with them. To me, that's like the best thing.
Yeah, yeah, I completely agreed. It's definitely the groups of people and the friendships you make. I want to take a step back. So you've spent a career in a profession that doesn't really involve firearms. When did shooting begin for you? And I guess how has your career complemented your continued participation in the shooting sports?
So that's a great question. I started when I was 5 years old. My dad gave me a Red Ryder BB gun, and we lived in an area that was somewhat rural. So I could shoot that BB gun all day long out back. Back then you were unsupervised. It wasn't like now you can't go outside do anything for fear of being kidnapped or whatever.
Mhm.
But back then, you could ride your bike until it was dark, and you could take your BB gun with you to your buddy's house way down a mile down the street or whatever. And we shot everything from cans to bottles to whatever we could prop up on a fence post. So I kind of got started with that, and it was back then it was kind of self-taught. And then my dad got me a 22, a little Marlin. I think it was a Model 60 if I remember right. Had this little squirrel in the stock. It was a little tube-fed 22 semi-auto. And again, we shot cans, we shot bottles, cool stuff like that. Just whatever we could find as kids and put up on a fence post or something. And we had plenty of property behind us, so it was never an issue. We didn't have to have a berm or a range or anything like that.
Mhm.
And I really didn't get into any like real competitive shooting until probably like 2012 is when I went to a three-man three-gun match, a local three-man three-gun match in York, PA. And I got two guys that I worked with. I said, hey, let's go try this out. Sounds like fun. They had a blast. We had a good time. We were like second to last, but we shot true irons in TAC Ops because, there was limited division, but there were only like 3-4 teams. So we did finish first in limited, but we were like either second or third from the bottom of the list. But, without any optics or anything, it definitely made it challenging. But I loved it, and I got hooked, and I said, this is what I want to do all the time. I used to do everything from scuba diving to, four-wheelers, dirt bikes, whatever. And I kind of jumped in with both feet on this. And as a firefighter, you work, shift work. So I would plan my vacation time around major matches. And luckily, my wife was very supportive of it. I have two girls, so they really didn't mind. And I'd shoot a major match. The first major match I ever shot, I shot by myself. I went to Tar Heel back in, I think, 2013 or 2014. And I met a guy who I'm still friends with today there. We shot together in the same squad, and we text and talk to each other all the time. And that's how it was. I mean, you didn't travel as like a group or anything. I just kind of went on my own, and I thought, yeah, this is pretty cool, and I want to keep doing this.
Very cool. Speaking of traveling, back in like Three Gun Nation days, you used to travel a lot as an RO with guys like Jason Byerly, Bob Osbeck,
Right.
and you do a lot of traveling yourself these days. I don't know how much you still
Right.
RO, but the USPSA has that too. They have a traveling RO circuit. You see a lot of the same faces when you go to the area matches and nationals. Do you see that same level of continuity in the RO base as there was during the Three Gun Nation days, or has that kind of waned off?
I do. You've got a core dedicated group of guys that are just fantastic here on the East Coast. I can't really speak for a lot of West Coast matches. The farthest I've been is like Midwest is Missouri, and Texas, and now Wisconsin and Minnesota for a couple matches there. I want to get out to like Rocky Mountain, Superstition Mountain, things like that to see what the West Coast flavor is like. But you do have a core group of guys that really rock out here on the East Coast. You got Chris Weissman, Pat Parker, Bill Richburg, Adolphus Jones, all those guys that are in that North Carolina, South Carolina area. They're working all the local matches. They're working Tar Heel Challenge. They're working Battle for the South. They're working Fall Brawl. They worked all the Three Gun Nation matches back then. And that's where I kind of got my start. And that's how I kind of those guys kind of took me under their wing and brought me into the fold with them. So when Three Gun Nation was a big thing and they had all these regionals, I couldn't afford to like shoot the match plus the hotel plus the fuel plus the ammo. So you would work the match, because you got your match fee, comp for the match. And a lot of times, if it was a Three Gun Nation match, they would take care of your hotel for you. The match directors really do a fantastic job with taking care of the ROs because if you've never RO'd a major match, it is a major commitment. You most likely are taking a week off of work, almost 7 days. You're traveling down, so you're paying for all your fuel and all that. So, the match directors take care of the guys that staff that match with hotels, with comping their match fees and that. That's fantastic. A guy who really did a great job with that a long time ago was Larry Howe. He when he ran the F&H match at Peacemaker, that was a fantastic match. Larry always had a separate like RO little dinner for the ROs because he knew those guys were committing a week off of work for vacation time. They were away from their families. So these guys that are out there working every match, you can't thank them enough. I make a point to shake every one of their hands to thank them because I've done it. I know how much of a time commitment it is, how hard it is being out there in the sun all day long. They're shooting in conditions that are not ideal for them because by the time they're done shooting and the competitors get there on a Thursday or a Friday, if it's a 3-day match, most of the targets that are in the woods for shotgun targets, they're kind of like they have little lanes from where all the ROs have shot, and they open up these little lanes so you can see those targets. They're not hidden. So those guys kind of, they have it a little tougher than the main competitors. I've never shot a match as an RO as good as I do as just a competitor. So, I understand, and I always try to, help those guys out, thank them as much as I can. If I have like samples of stuff, I always give it to the ROs versus like just the main match competitors. When you see those guys time after time, it's almost like your family without being blood relatives. Chris Weissman and we've been buddies for a long time. I like to bust Chris's chops because he's a first responder. But he will send me stuff. He's like shipped stuff to my house and doesn't want me to pay for any. He's given me left-handed mag pouches that he's pulled off of prize tables and everything else. And you get this bond with the RO staff, and those guys really take care of you and make sure that your experience as a paying customer is.
Yeah. Are you still doing as much of the traveling RO stuff these days?
No,
Or
no, not as much. I will help RO Dean DeTurk for the 3-man 3-gun match. That's about a 2-hour commute for me. I have not got down to help out Jason or Donnie Flo or any of those guys in a while. But I do intend to do that now that I've retired and I have some more time. I do intend to give back more to the sport and help RO some of those major matches, just because you're starting to lose that experience. Well, a lot of people are kind of burning out because they work so many matches. So we need to start pulling a lot of these old guys back in to start helping out and keep these matches alive and show these new guys what they need to do to help out and get back to the sport.
Yeah, because I think there's two ways of looking at ROing. One is like you're an authoritarian, you're there to enforce the rules. But another way to look at it is that you're a mentor, you're really a coach, and you're there to ensure safety. Yeah, but you're also there to, it's a bit of customer service. So having RO'd as much as you have all around the country, what's your philosophy on the approach to that position?
That's a great question. I would say fairness. It doesn't matter who the competitor is, if it's a new guy who's shooting his first major match, or if it is a major sponsored shooter who's won national championships. As a CRO or an RO, I treated every competitor the same. I didn't give preferential treatment to as a national champion sponsored shooter over a new shooter. I felt like every competitor needed the same fair equity on that stage. So that was always my philosophy: was be fair, be consistent with everybody, make sure the calls are the same for everyone, and to do my best as someone who's running that stage, because you're selling entertainment. If
Yeah.
people do not come back to that match, they're spending their money where they want. So if they have a bad experience, they're not going to come back to that match. They're not going to come back and support that match. They may not help at that match. If they have a good experience, they may say, hey, you know what, this was great, I'm going to come back and I'm going to work this match next time, next year, and help out. So for me, I try to be as fair and equitable as I can, no matter who the shooter is.
Yeah, that completely makes sense. I directed my first match this last weekend, and we had three shooters who DQ'd on a stage where it was a rearward movement, and a lot of them tried reloading to their weak side, which no bueno, right? But I also understood that the way I conveyed that to them was important to whether or not I was very clear. It was like, I hope this doesn't dissuade you from coming back to this match and shooting in general. You're not a bad person. Everyone does it. I did it at my first major match. I paid a lot more money just to get sent home halfway through. So yeah, I agree. It's that's why I kind of asked about your philosophy and approach to it. Did your first impression with the shooting sports, like the ROs and the mentors who kind of like got you in the shooting sports, did that leave a huge impression on the way you approach ROing?
Like anything else, I always equated that to what I saw at work with our leadership. You had good ROs, and then you had some ROs who you were like, I don't want to say anything bad about anybody, but you knew they set the example of what not to do or how to be. So you kind of, if you saw them again, ROing a stage or another match, you kind of knew what to expect from them. So you knew that their 180 line was not going to be like a 180.5 or a 179.5. It was going to be a hard, oh geez, you're like at 175, stop. And it's hard to argue that. So you kind of knew who the guys were that were very strict with their 180 rules or any other rules, and you just kind of made sure that you didn't violate that stuff. Shoot, sorry, I kind of lost track of where I was going that, but you know right away who those individuals are. So they kind of set that impression with you of, all right, when I RO, this is how I don't want to be. And I'm not saying that you are relaxed on the rules, but like you said, you handle that approach differently. You convey that to an individual. So I've DQ'd in two major matches, two local matches so far. I DQ'd in the Texas 3-gun championship. And it was the third day. I was shooting heavy metal, and I came off of this gigantic A-frame, shot the long range steel really well, came off this big A-frame, and I don't know if I slipped or what happened, but my finger touched the trigger and I had an AD. My fault. There's nothing I can do about that. That's my fault. This year I had a pretty good one. My pistol fell out of a brand new holster. I did not realize it, but my retention screws had backed out when I was traveling to the match. And it's my fault because after I thought about it, I remember loosening them up and not
I
tightening
remember
them
that.
back down.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
was Battle
So
for the South.
that was Battle for the South. It was the first match of this year because I'm in the Northeast, so it's cold in the wintertime. You don't shoot a whole lot from January to March. So if you get good weather, you might get a local match in. But you know what I had to do? I had to put a big old smile on my face. Buddy Brown came over and said, "Hey, bud, you know what this means?" I said, "Buddy, I know exactly what it means." I was already packing my gear up. I'm not going to be the kind of person who argues and tries to fight that and say, the rules say this. I'm not going to range lawyer that. I know I did something wrong. I know what the rules say, and it's pretty cut and dry. You can't really argue that. So even when I DQ, I take it for what it is. I smile, I learn from that mistake, and I don't make a big show about it because I don't want to embarrass myself being mad, being argumentative or anything like that. So, if nothing else, if you do have something like that happen, best thing you can do is just learn from that mistake and try not to repeat it. I know every time I get on the line and I make ready, I check those screws now. That's for sure.
Yeah, that's one of those lessons you only have to learn once.
Absolutely.
You mentioned it before. You shoot a lot of different disciplines. You mentioned 22 PRS, USPSA, dabble in tactical games, other disciplines. Like, what's your philosophy overall? Are those all contributors to three gun, which is like the most important thing to you, or is it just like you just want to be good at shooting in different forms that it's presented through competition?
Yeah, so I try to take a little bit from every different discipline and equate it somehow to three guns. So when the tactical games were coming out and everybody was starting to get into that hot and heavy like 2019, 2020, I looked at it as a opportunity for me to lose some weight, to get back into fitness because I had some pretty good injuries at work that I had surgeries from that, and I used that as an excuse. I kept telling myself, "Hey, I can't do this. Like, it's too physical, that kind of stuff." So my mindset was, I don't want to push myself and hurt myself. And then finally one day I said, you know what, this tactical games looks too much fun. I'm going to do this. So I set my mind to it. I trained hard, and I actually found that the issues and the pain and the problems that I were having were starting to correct themselves from the exercise, from the diet, from the weight loss. So I thought to myself, this is benefiting me in three gun. It's making my footwork faster. It's making me stronger. It's making my cardio better for long jungle run stages and things like that. The 22 PRS, I just happened on a whim. I said, I'm going to try this out. It was kind of during the height of COVID. The local guys were shooting these 22 matches, and I kind of always kind of just dispelled it as, it doesn't look very fun. And then I thought, well, heck, that's a cheap way to train for long distance shooting. Because if you want to make win calls, you try shooting a 22 shot at 300 to 400 yards. You will be humbled very quickly. So you start to learn wind calls, and it starts to translate and help you for long range, for three gun, for gas gun, for things like that. The same thing with gas gun. My local range has a 200-yard range. So I got into the IWI gas gun series because they were shooting at a range that has a 700-yard burn. So we shoot distances from 100 to 650, 635, 650 yards, which has really helped me in my three gun long range game, which I saw at Tar Heel this year because there was a lot of long range, the Tar Heel Challenge. And there were a couple stages I was shooting 1-for-1, or I'd have one makeup shot with the wind that we had. So the gas gun, the 22 or PRS, has really translated into improvements for me in three gun and has really helped with three gun shooting. If I could just get my mind right to say move my chunky fat butt a little faster, then I would be certainly doing a little bit better. But it's always in the back of my mind, hey, don't tear your Achilles again. I had Achilles surgery just like you.
Yeah.
About 7 years ago, I fell off a ladder at work. Felt pretty good, landed on my feet, tore my left Achilles, so I still have a tear there. And I'm always mindful of that. I'm very cautious with it, very careful. So I try not to push myself, even though I can. So I certainly understand that progression of crawl, walk, run that you went through when you got back in the USPSA after your surgery.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dude,
So
it sets you back. Is it
yes,
still pretty stiff, that
it
like that
is.
ankle?
Yeah, every morning, every evening, every morning I get up, it's like it takes me a couple minutes to get that thing to loosen up. I
Mm,
hobble around, especially in the evening when I'm done kind of working in the yard or at work, and I kind of sit down at my desk at my office, or if I sit down and watch like a TV show, late in the evening, when I get up to use the restroom or go to bed, I'm hobbling again because that thing just tightens up. Throughout the
yeah.
day when I'm out moving around and doing stuff, it's pretty good. I also I baby it a lot. I don't run on it, but when I do run, I'm fine, except for 2 to 3 days later, it's very sore. So
Yeah.
I'm always cautious of that, and I take it easy, like on day one of a major match, or so that way by day two, I'm still competing and I'm not, pushing myself out.
Yeah. Yeah. Unfortunately, it's one of those things that sticks with you. You just learn to manage it, which sounds like you have learned to manage it pretty well.
Absolutely. I'm
So
hoping to get that thing repaired so I can really start to get on the gas here again.
Hmm.
so you and I have we've kind of we talk all the time, and over the past year we've talked about the IPSC World Rifle Shoot in Finland that's coming up next year. It's something we're both interested in.
Right.
How are you currently preparing for a match of that caliber? And what have you heard? We've all kind of heard stuff, but what are the steps necessary to get in a match like that now?
Um, Great questions. Some of the things that I have been doing recently is a lot of homework. Like I've been doing a lot of match recon from previous world shoots for any videos that I can find on YouTube. There's been a lot of USA shooters as well as foreign country shooters who are posting their videos just to try to get a flavor of what that match is like. So I know that they're big on like rifle paper at 300 yards or 300 plus yards, and they used a basically a like a USPSA scoring for that, or an IPSC scoring. So if you don't shoot alphas, you're down a point, 2 points, 3 points, depending upon if you're shooting Charlie's, deltas, things like that. So for me, right now, the thing that I've been trying to do and prepare for that is more of a mental management type thing of reconning as much video as I can to see what that match is all about or what their stages are like. So that way I can start setting up a training program. Now that I have some more time to hit the range, I can start working on my positional shooting off of barricades, off of kneeling bipods, which, I just did at USPSA Nationals, and it did not go well for me off of this lawnmower. I struggled a little bit as a lefty there because it was kind of angled. So, I got my second round hit on the target, but I spent a lot of time getting into that position. So now I know that I need to work more with this kneeling bipod, because I know a lot of those guys in those European countries are big on the kneeling bipods. So if you're going to shoot open, if you're going to shoot modified or the division that allows that, then that's what you have to work on. So for me, long range, the small, close, quick target transition, I need to work on my eye speed, getting my eyes moving faster from target to target for transitions. And just, that kind of translates from, three gun from USPSA, just the fast trigger finger, moving target to target. So that's why I want to kind of shoot those things more to get into position for that. So for me, I need to work more on my long range, on my positional shooting off of barricades, off of kneeling bipods, and things like that. So my buddy Rick Fox has told me that I can go up and shoot at the New Holland range with him. We can shoot out to 700 yards. I'm definitely going to take him up on those opportunities now that I have more time. I have more free time that I'm retired. I'm definitely going to train more during the day. But for me, cardio, movement, just footwork, working on footwork is going to be a big thing. Cutting some weight, getting faster with my feet so I can move from position to position. There's definitely things that I'm going to work on to help, hopefully promote myself and shoot well enough that I can get an invite to the team there for that. So, to add to the second part of your question there, I kind of got off on a little tangent, but USPSA and Outlaw 3 Gun are trying to work together. So I know that there are folks who are trying to put the best team that they can and make the best team they can for this Rifle World Shoot team. We definitely want the best shooters that we can get to represent the U.S. If it's not me, I'm not going to be hurt by that. I want the best people going to represent our country because, like anything else, I love it when we win in the Olympics. It hurts my feelings when we lose a lot of the winter Olympic sports, like some of the skiing and stuff, because it seems like those European countries are so much better than that, and it just drives me nuts. So I want the best team going to win for the U.S. If it's not me, I'm going to do whatever I can to support my friends who do make the team, and help them out in any way I can. But USPSA and the Outlaw Free Gun guys are trying to get together, and they're trying to make some classifiers or qualifiers to kind of create a standard so that we can gauge and say, hey, these are the best shooters that there are. These are the guys who we want to represent the U.S. So they did that a little bit. They had a one-stage test run at USPSA Multi-Gun Nationals. I know that the Jeff Kirkwald match coming up, I think this month, they're going to do again. They're going to have another stage as like a classifier or qualifier stage. Jeremy Gresham and the folks at IWI are going to host a match down at the Clinton House. I know Donnie Flo with Tar Heel 3 Gun is big involved in that right now. So those guys are working on I think an 8 or a 10 stage match, 2-day match. That will be an IPSC style match, and it will be a qualifier for the World Shoot Team. So it's going to be in March, and it will help set the team and provide the best shooters to represent the U.S.
I'm like they're doing down in South Carolina at that match down there with Donnie Flo. I'm curious if any of the matches out west or even in the Midwest are going to be picking up any matches. That way there's fair representation across the board. It'd be interesting to kind of see that.
I do know that Aaron Hayes, he's been involved with some of these conversations. So I think you'll see some stuff early on in the year if they do something at like Texas 3 Gun, because if I remember right, that's a March match or an April match. Is that correct?
I want to say April.
Okay, so yeah, so you're really cutting it close in April, but I think that if something isn't done this year, you will see that going forward. I think there's going to be a good collaboration of USPSA and the Outlaw 3 Gun guys. I don't want to keep saying outlaw because I don't want to make it sound like we're rebels, but the guys, the match directors who set up all these major 3 gun matches, I think you will see these classifiers or qualifiers start to be incorporated into like shotgun matches where you will have like an all shotgun match to help select the shotgun world shoot team. USPSA is like a whole different animal because you can start to pull pistol shooters from that. So you really probably don't need to do something different in that aspect for the pistol world shoot team. But I think you're going to start seeing like different qualifier type matches or stages at matches that will help for the selection of shotgun and the rifle world shoot.
No, it'd be interesting to see how things go moving forward because I know like us 3 gun guys were like, well, if USPSA is kind of controlling it, what do we have to kind of qualify for it? And everybody's always given the answer, well, anybody can go shoot the world shoot. And we got that, but not everybody is going to represent Team USA. And I understand that as well. And it's like, we need something fair and equitable. USPSA, they have you accrue points through shooting the nationals, USPSA nationals,
and IPSC nationals.
IPSC nationals. But we don't have a rifle nationals, and I understand why. Like, I understand why we don't have those. It's like, we're 3 gunners. We're different in that regard. So it'd be curious. I'm curious to see how things go moving forward. Like you said, but kind of, you've represented IWI, Masterpiece Arms, and Vortex, and other companies as well. I kind of want to get your philosophy behind why you decided to represent those companies because everybody's like, I want to be a jersey shooter. I want to be sponsored. And you especially get that out of young guys because all they look at it as is, well, I don't have to pay for guns or I don't have to do this. But what they don't realize is there's a huge commitment behind that. Like you have to treat it almost as if it's a second job in many cases.
Right. Matt, before I answer that, I just wanted to touch on something you just said there. Um, USPSA has really reached out. They're branching out to say, hey, they're not saying we want to bring all of three gun in the USPSA. We want you guys to follow our rule set, but they are making an effort to reach out to folks and say, we hear what you're telling us. We hear that you guys want the best shooters to represent our nation and our country at World Shoot, and they are really helping out. They're everyone's kind of setting egos aside, and they are trying to collaborate and come up with a plan on how to get this moving forward. So I sat and listened Saturday evening at Multi-Gun Nationals. There was a meeting, and I got to give it to Ted Murphy, the acting president right now, to Nick and everybody that was involved there. Those guys did fantastic. They asked a lot of questions. They took a lot of feedback, and things. I don't want to say things got out of hand, but there started to be not confrontational
Dialogue.
type questions. Yeah, the dialogue changed a little bit, and they rolled with it. They didn't get upset. They didn't just say, okay, hey, we're done with this. We don't want to hear anything you guys said. They took that feedback and they digested it. And I say that because I actually had an opportunity to speak to some of those guys on Sunday, and they listened to what was said, and they're taking that and they're trying to move forward with that. So I think it's a step in the right direction. I think we've got the right folks representing the three gun community, trying to get this ball rolling. And I think that you're going to see, it's a little late in the game this year for Rifle Worlds coming up in next July, I believe, trying to get a team selected. But I think coming next year, the following year, you're going to really see a big push for shotgun and rifle, over the next couple of years. So to get back to your question in reference to like sponsors and things like that, I have been very fortunate. I have most of my sponsors. I don't want to say I have kind of fallen into place with them, but I have networked with these individuals who lead these companies. Jeremy Gresham, Ruben Alexson, who does the sponsorship stuff with Vortex. A young lady who I didn't speak to her ahead of time, so I don't know if she wants me to mention her name, but she worked at a different company that I represented a long time ago. And she remembered me when she was at MPA, and she said, you know what? You're a great ambassador to the shooting sports, and we would love to have you come over and shoot one of our Masterpiece Arms pistols. So I was ecstatic. I thought, this is fantastic. But it's not one of those things where you just email them and say, hey, I want to represent your company. You have to put the legwork in. I know this has been said multiple times, but you just don't email them and say, I want to represent your brand, your product, your company, because they get so many emails every day from people, like thousands of them, that they just go by the wayside. I hate to say it. But if you are networking, if you are shaking hands with folks, if you are putting yourself out there, if you're ROing these matches, a lot of these sponsors show up to these matches. So they see what kind of individual you are when you're competing. If you have a bad stage and you get mad and you're yelling and you're cussing and things like that, that's not a very good representation of your personality. It may be you're just mad for those couple minutes, but it sets an impression with them. So you have to be a good ambassador to the shooting sports, to that company, because you are representing their brand, their name. And if you are doing inappropriate things, if you're saying inappropriate things, if you're not representing yourself in a way that shows positive light to help new shooters, to help the shooting sports, they're not going to invest their time in. So I've been very fortunate because I have networked with these folks. They have brought me on board with their company, not because I'm out winning major matches, but because they know that I'm out working matches. They know that I'm out helping at trade shows if they need help. I got lucky with Vortex because I was the sponsor coordinator for a point series match. And I reached out to Ruben. We talked at, I think it was a Blue Ridge match. And we talked again at the Lucas Oil PCC Championship when I was out in Missouri. And I just started bouncing ideas off of him. said, hey, I said, I know you handle sponsorship at Vortex. Can you give me some tips and tricks and pointers to help out? So we kind of talked back and forth, and we just kind of developed a relationship. I love the Vortex products. I had purchased a lot of Vortex products on my own. And one day I just reached out. I said, Ruben, I said, I'd really love to represent your company. I said, if you ever have a slot on your team and you have an opening and you need someone, please let me know. And a couple months later, I got an email saying, hey, we'd like to have you represent Vortex Optics. And again, I was ecstatic. And I've been with Vortex now for several years. Same thing with Jeremy Gresham. Jeremy reached out to me. We were shooting a local match, and he said, have you thought about representing IWI? And I said, you know what? I said, I would love to do that because I know how much he gives back to the shooting sports. And I would love to represent a company like that. But I just had signed on with a rifle company, and I didn't think it would be right to turn right around and tell this other rifle company, hey, sorry, I've got this other offer. I don't want to represent you. And when I told him that, he respected that. And he said, when you're ready, you come talk to me. So 2-3 years later, I reached out to him. I said, hey, if you still have a slot on your team and you want me to come represent you, I said, I would love to shoot for you. And he said, absolutely. So, again, it was one of those networking things. Jeremy knows that, I give back as much as I can. He can call me and, bounce things off of me, or he can call me and say, hey, I need you to drop everything you're doing, book a flight and come out here and help me at this show. Which I've done for him, and I've helped him out. So, and I've always made that offer to any of the companies I represent, that if they ever need help, I'll do whatever I can to give back to them as much as they've given to me. And that's what I think people need to remember is this is not a just take relationship. You have to give back. You have to give back as much as you can to that company so that you're a good return investment on them.
No, that was beautifully said. And I think it kind of goes and speaks to your character too. And you're absolutely right. It's not just a matter of, oh, I'm this person and I can do this. There has to be some kind of equity that you can offer them. And it's not, I win matches. Who cares? Like, can you represent us in a professional manner? And we've said it over and over and over again.
You just hit the nail on the head, Matt. You are absolutely 100% correct, because I have had the opportunity to hear some inner dialogue, and I've seen names thrown around of, hey, so-and-so's asking to represent us. And then it's like, this industry is so small. If you've made a bad name for yourself, it travels quickly. So you could be a top level shooter that is winning matches left and right. But if you don't have that character and you don't have that compassion for other people and you don't have that willingness to represent in a good light, they're going to pass you over. I hate to say it.
Kind of moving along, and you and I spoke about this, and I really wanted to respect your wishes with this, and you gave me the blessing and said, let's talk about it. But we've all had serious life events go on in our lives, and you probably went through one of the biggest scares of yours over the past few years. You were diagnosed with prostate cancer, you went through the treatment, and now you're in remission. How has going through that put life in perspective for you?
Fantastic questions. So this was kind of a two-part thing. I actually had bladder cancer.
Oh, okay.
And so I had bladder cancer 5 years ago. Young 43-year-old guy at the time, feel like, hey, I'm in good shape. I knew there was something wrong, but I kept putting it off. And typical, guy with an EMS type background, fire service background, unless the bone's sticking out or you can't control the bleeding, you don't go to the doctors. So I had something going on and I kept just putting it off. And then I thought, all right, I need to get this checked out. And I'm glad I did when I did, because had I waited a little longer, my outcome will be totally different. I may not even be here right now. So I was diagnosed. I thought I had a kidney issue. And I went to a urologist, and if you don't know, they do what's called a cystoscopy, where they take this scope, like a fiber optic scope that I kid you not is like 18 to 24 inches long, and they insert it, and they go up through, the front, and they check your bladder, they check your kidneys, and he's looking around, and they've got this gigantic monitor, and it's like, and I was like, what the heck? I'm seeing all my internal stuff, right? And like, this guy thinks it's cool. He's pointing things out, and I'm like, I don't want to look at this, bud. Just get this over with. I'm gritting my teeth because it is like burning. And he says, man, that's weird. That doesn't look right. And instantly I think, what the heck are you talking about? Like, I don't even see what you're pointing at. So, he tells me, hey, we're gonna get you back in here. We're gonna get this thing, like biopsy, cut out, check it out. So I was very fortunate. I had a positive, cancerous tumor in my bladder, but mine was positioned on the inside lining of my bladder. Had I waited, had it progressed and started to get through that lining into the muscle, it would have started to spread to all my other internal organs, and been a lot worse. So I'm actually going in October for my last and final cystoscopy check. Hopefully, as long as everything is clear, they say I'm good to go. Now, I do know that one of my coworkers has had it come back probably 4 or 5 times. He's battling like an esophagus cancer now and everything else. So it's, for me, the mental aspect of this has not gone away at all. It's something that I think about every day, because I think, yeah, I'm looking forward to that final check. But I also know it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when this comes back. How's it going to come back? My mother had breast cancer. She fought it for 11 years. And like the last 2 to 3 years, it started to spread all over. So fast forward, this year, I was, again, something just didn't seem right. I go back to the urologist, and I went to get a second opinion. They do an MRI, and the guy says, hey, I see this mass like in your prostate. So I think, shit, that ain't good. So right away, but for me, I had already been through this mental darkness, I'll say. So I was able to mentally prepare myself better. So when I had this biopsy and I got my results, it wasn't a, like 1,000 pounds being dumped on me at once. When you and I were talking on the phone, I was telling you, and this is, it's hard to talk about, but when I got my results, I sat in my truck for 20 minutes, and I couldn't even start my truck to pull out of the parking lot, because I started thinking, right away, I was writing my own, my death certificate. So I'm thinking, all right, I've got to get my will updated. I've got to get like a medical power of attorney. I've got to start doing all these things. And like, I'm trying to get everything in order and ready to go. So if something happens to me, it's easier on my wife, it's easier on my kids. And then I started to think, geez, I just need, 5 to 8 years. If I can make it 5 to 8 years, I'll be happy, because I want to walk my kids down the aisle when they get married. I got 2 daughters. So that was like, all right, I need to do that. So that became the whole thing of, you know what? I'm going to start eating better. I'm going to start exercising again, exercising more. And then that kind of pushed me to the tactical games. I thought that's going to be the motivation I need to really kick myself in the butt and get going. So, I go into this prostate thing, and they did like 14 core sample biopsies. And in the meantime, I'm speaking with the urologist, like we're playing phone tag. And finally, I just asked the main secretary lady, I said, listen, just tell me what the results are. She said, well, it looks like you got prostate cancer. So I was like, great. I get the biopsy done. It's like another agonizing week of waiting on the results. And then the guy calls me and he says, hey, just want to let you know, it's just a benign mass. You're fine. So I went from, hey, you've got prostate cancer, to, all right, now you just got a benign mass, everything's good. So I took that as a win, and I took that as, all right, that's pretty cool. It wasn't like a huge weight lifted off of me, because, I had already gone through this once. So I felt like, all right, that's a win for me. I didn't want to gloat about it. I didn't want, because I thought, could have gone the other way and could still go the other way. So it definitely is it's a mental challenge for sure. Something you think about every day. Of course, a lot of like, close friends and folks that are, are tight with me, they ask me all the time, how am I doing? Things like that. And I almost feel like, I appreciate them asking, but sometimes I feel like, man, I don't want to keep saying, hey, I'm doing fine, because physically I feel like I'm doing fine, but then there's some days where mentally I'm just like worn out, thinking about it. So it's a challenging thing. It really is. And if you have never had a family member experience it, anything like that, or if you've never experienced anything like that, it weighs on you hard, really hard.
Well, I remember last year when you were diagnosed, and you hit me up about that and just letting me know.
Yeah,
I mean, I was just I was like, what the fuck?
right.
And you said you weren't gonna change your shooting schedule at all. And I was thinking, man, I don't know if I could do that. I do want to be around friends, but I the whole family aspect too. But you wanted to continue doing things as it was, and how did you come to that decision, and what prompted you just going with those decisions?
It. I will say this: the three gun community and the shooting community as a whole has been fantastic. I enjoy getting out and shooting with folks, whether it's a monthly basis or it's a semi-annual basis that I see some of the guys down south at matches and stuff like that. To me, that is like the highlight of that month, that week, whatever it is. With your military background, with my fire service background, with a lot of people with law enforcement backgrounds, you see a lot of things that people don't see.
Hmm.
You get exposed to things that no one should ever get exposed to. And for me, shooting has always helped. It gets me out of the house. It gets me, hanging around other like-minded 2A community people who, shoot, sorry, I'm getting up. And I have no clue who it is, so I'm going to try to see if I can get you. So that has always helped me. It's an escape, for lack of a better term. Can you hear that ringing or no?
Nope.
Okay, good. I don't know who the heck's calling me. It's one of those like robo spam calls, but
Mhm.
so for me, it's always been an outlet to relax. And sometimes I think that is my problem is I want to go and have a good time with you, with Weissman, with Ian, with Matt Kitzmiller, with all these guys that I shoot with all the time, um, because it's that escape. And I would rather hang out with people and just pull the trigger. And I want to win, but for me, I get like too relaxed because
Hmm.
I'm there having a good time. I find that I shoot way better if I'm by myself at a match and
Yep.
I don't have my buddies there because then I'm like concentrating on winning. But when everybody else is there, I want to hang out, man. I just want to have a good time. It's that outlet. So for me, that's been the biggest thing. It's been just to help,
Family.
mentally to, yeah, exactly. It's a family that you can call anytime and people will listen to you, whether it's in the middle of the night or throughout the day, and you don't have to worry about telling them things that that you tell your own family. Because I made that mistake. I told my wife something one time, but I couldn't keep it in anymore, and I shared something with her, and I wish I never would have. To this day, I still can't like sleep right because of it, things like that. So, once I told her, I felt better, but I also felt bad because I should have never shared with her what I experienced and had to go through, and but other folks in the shooting sports are in their same professions, same job fields, and they're experiencing similar things, sometimes the same thing. So they know where you're coming from, they know where you're going with that, and to me, I don't have to say, "Hey, I'm having a bad day." I can just show up, and when I see you, the first thing we do is hug.
Yep.
Same thing with Chris, same thing with Bob Bousback. All these guys that we see down south at these matches and stuff. I've made some good friends out in the Midwest with Spencer Marsh and Phil Buys and Chris Donahue and Josh Erickson and these guys. Those guys are fantastic. It's great meeting these new people, and to me, that's the best part of it.
No,
Whether I
absolutely.
DQ or not, if I pull the trigger every stage or if I DQ, I'm still hanging out with all my buddies. I'm
Yeah.
not packing up and going home. So, that happened at Battle for the South. I was the first shooter in the afternoon squads, the first stage, and I DQ'd and I hung out the rest of the match. I took pictures, I took video for my squad mates. I reset, I picked up calls, I did all that stuff. I helped the ROs, and I stayed to the end of the match. I didn't just pack up and head home.
No,
I don't
and
think that's the right thing to do.
yeah, I remember seeing you and you came up to me. He was like, dude, I just fucking DQ'd. I was just like,
Yeah,
oh no.
Mhm.
yeah,
I'm just
yeah,
like, fuck, man. He's like, I'm gonna be
yeah,
here. I was like, that's pretty awesome, man. I mean, that, you know, it it's a commitment itself to come down, but then
right,
even whenever you DQ, you do have the ability just to take off and leave, and you
right.
stay. And again, that's attributed to the character that you have.
Well, thank
And
you.
you know, I I just, I when I see you, it's like, George, this is awesome. We're hanging out. Like, we
Right,
hug, like at 3-man 3 gun. We show up to the stage and it's like you, Andy Snyder, and it's like, hell yeah.
right.
Like you can't tell which one's Andy, which one's is George. You both look the same, but it's like, hey, bring it in.
Andy's better looking.
And he
Hey, you know
flies a
what, Matt?
helicopter.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to start drinking again, Matt. So that way we can start. I start trying this bourbon that you're always talking about. I had a good time talking to you the other day about bourbon. Um,
Ugh.
it, Frank, you weren't privy to this, but Matt and I were talking the other day on the phone. I'm changing the oil in my truck, and we're talking about bourbon and stuff. And he's telling me about the different brands of bourbon and educating me. And I thought, you know what, I got to try this. I told my wife, I said, hey, I'm gonna start trying bourbon. She looked at me and she said, what? She said, you ain't drinking. She said, you haven't drank anything in years. Now all of a sudden you want to start drinking bourbon. I said, yep, I'm gonna start doing
Who'd you
things
get
like
that
that
idea
with
from?
pops.
Matt? Who's Matt? Like,
Yep,
you're
yep,
such a bad
exactly.
influence, dude.
Oh
Yeah,
man. You know what? I think every wife to all my friends fucking hate me
Oh,
because
they hate
you,
my friends' wives hate me because I'm the guy who like gets them buying guns and ammo and just like, oh, so you're Frank. I'm like, yeah, that's me.
well,
I'm a
it's
so
nice
like
guy.
while we're on this,
I'm the walking ATF here, I mean, I dip, I don't ever try and get anybody else into dipping, but like whenever it comes to alcohol, here we go. Like George is wanting to get into some bourbon and everything, which that's great. I will tell you, don't go to my level to where I probably have 60 to 70 bottles downstairs right now.
Hmm.
well,
And
I got to tell you, Matt, in conjunction with you, I signed up for the Tobin Memorial Hard
okay.
match that's coming up next March.
Hmm.
And regrettably, I have to withdraw from that because it's the week before the IPSC qualifier match is going to be down
Mm.
at Clinton House. And financially, I'm not going to be able to do back to back because I was going to have to fly to Missouri. It's like 9, almost 10 hours to drive to Clinton House for me. So, but Tobin was a big like bourbon drinker, and
Yep.
if you guys haven't looked at that match on Practice Score, sign up for that. They're going to have two divisions, hard and soft. It's not going to. I
It's
think
like the
now I
old
think
blue
they're going to.
line events.
Exactly. It's Tobin was big into that, and this match is going to be a charity match for a foundation or a charity that he was is really near and dear to his heart. And I'm sorry I'm getting off tangent trying to plug these guys, but
Oh no, no, no. Go ahead.
um, yeah, Tobin was a good guy. Tobin was a law enforcement officer. Tobin, talk about RO. Tobin was one of those guys who RO'd almost every major match that there was. He was that guy. His heart was like this big. Everybody loved Tobin, and when he passed away, it really put a big hole in the three
It
gun community.
Oh yeah, that
Um,
shocked the 3-gun community. Like
yes,
people, like I'll say this, like Tobin always had a way of bringing the community together in one way or
yes,
another, whether in person and drinking with everybody and getting the party started and hanging
yep,
out, and even in death, he brought the whole community together because as soon as that news was passed, everybody in the community, not just on Facebook, but we're texting each other.
Yes,
Um,
you're correct.
and people were like trying to find out the details. People were going, making plans to go to the funeral. And people were like, "Are you going to be able to go?" It's like, I can't. Like, I had literally just started a new job, and it's like, I can't just. I felt really bad, but
Right.
unfortunately I couldn't make it out there. And I
Um,
really feel bad for his fiance too, because they
right.
were on vacation together.
I tell you, these guys, they're setting up this match in a unique format, and hopefully nothing has changed. But what they are doing is they're doing like a hard ass division, like that blue line and the hard ass match that they used to have. So if you sign up for the hard ass, you're going to shoot all 8 stages Thursday. And these are going to be like 5 minute part-time stages. So these are not a quick 30-second burner or bay type stage. This is going to be a 5 minute stage, and it's going to kick your ass. But that's what Tobin liked. And then they're going to have like the main match on Friday and Saturday. And from what I understand, and Todd and these guys, Mark Takasic and all them, they can correct me if I'm wrong. But the last I heard, listening to their live feeds, or what they're going to do is they're going to run like a majority of the stages Friday. So you'll shoot, I think, like either 5 or 6 stages Friday, and then you'll shoot 2 to 3 on Saturday. And then Saturday they're having like a celebration for Tobin. So it's going to be like everybody comes in, they have like a dinner, they eat, and from what I understand, it's not going to be a prize table match. But what they are going to do is, if things are donated as like prize table type items, they're going to auction them off, I think, and they're going to take those proceeds and please don't hold me to this because I may be speaking out of turn here, but from what I understand, they're going to take those proceeds and they're going to donate them to the charity that Tobin, always supported. And I think Todd was asking people if they're able to bring a bottle of bourbon, to share because Tobin would like bourbon and stuff. So, and I think they're going to auction off some bottles of bourbon as well. And I may be wrong on that, but if you can get out there, if you're interested in a tactical game style hard match, sign up for this. There's still some slots open as far as I know. It's going to be the hard shoot everything in one day. It's going to be like the 29th of February. I think it's a leap year this year, so I think it's 29th, and then March 1 and 2 will be the main match days. But yeah, if you're in that Midwest area, it's going to be at I think the Gadsden Shooting Center. I think it's going to be at
Yep.
Chad Francis's range.
Yep.
So if you can, Chad's a great guy. If you can get out there and shoot that match, do it. Support a good cause, support a fellow 3-gun guy who gave back 100% to the community.
No, I appreciate you putting that plug in there. Yeah, like that. It's unfortunate that this happened, but again, Toby's bringing everybody together.
Yes, he is. Yep.
So we've already talked, like, you did 25 years on the fire service.
Yes, sir.
You're retired now. It's been about 2 weeks you've been into retirement. And I often
Yep.
say, welcome to the rest of your life whenever somebody's retired, because it's true. This is the rest of your life. Like, guys in the military, even in your position, like, we are committed to doing something for as long as we can until we are eligible for retirement. And,
Right.
We're usually used to being told what to do and go here, go there, all that kind of stuff. And so I tell people, welcome to the rest of your life, because now you are in control of your destiny. What does that look like for you?
Great question, Matt. So yes, over my 25 years in the fire service, I have had opportunities to do some very unique training. I have attended bomb schools. I've attended radiation classes out in the New Mexico Nevada test course, where they did a lot of the atomic testing. I have been down to Alabama, um, where they have worked with chemical and biological agents for hazardous material training and stuff like that. So I have had a pretty diverse background in my first fire service career. I was one of those guys who always wanted to train no matter what it was. Even to till the time that I retired, like a fire investigator training course opened up, and I spent a couple weeks doing that. So that is basically like a fire marshal program where you go in and you're sifting through, burnt rubble, looking for an ignition source and things like that. So my last 5, 6, almost 6 years, I spent doing building inspection, code enforcement, fire marshal duties, and stuff like that. And I did that because of the injuries that I was having, the problems that I was having with my shoulder, with my foot from falling off that ladder, and that kind of stuff. I didn't want to hamper, my crew, my team, my guys. So I thought to myself, rather than being a burden on that, I'm going to kind of move along and allow, another younger guy who's hungry to come up. So in retirement, I took one day off and I kind of went right back to it. So I had an opportunity. I got very lucky. I was offered a position to be an instructor for confined space and rope rescue with a company in an industrial commercial setting. So I thought, my wife told me, she was like, I thought about it. And I was like, I don't know if I want to do this. And she said, listen, she said, you have learned so much. It's time for you to pass on that knowledge that you have. And I agreed with her 100%. So I was actually teaching today. I'll be teaching again tomorrow, but it's on my schedule, my terms. I've told these guys, hey, I only want to work like Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. I want free time Friday through Monday. And this past weekend, my daughter went back to school. My wife and I were home for the weekend by ourselves. We had crabs one night, and then we on a whim just jumped in the Jeep and we went to some festival somewhere in Saturday. Sunday we went and had brunch. We just kind of was like lazy days. Hey, what do you want to do? And that's what we did. And it was probably the most relaxing weekend I've ever had in a long, long time. And it was fantastic and I loved it. And I'm looking forward to a lot more like that. So I got to tell you, retirement's great. If you're on the fence, and you're worried about it, do it. Don't worry about it. Just put your paperwork in, retire, and do something different. Get that spark back and enjoy what you do. Give and share that knowledge that you have, like you're doing, Matt. You're in a position where you're able to mentor and lead younger Marines and teach them what you've learned, and that's kind of what I'm doing right now. And to me, the pay, it's not about the pay. I got some feedback today from one of the owners of the company, and he came to me and he said, hey, he said, this last class that you did, he said, I really just kind of poked around to see how things went. And he said, the guys all said it's the best training they've had in a long time. They said, you were very knowledgeable and we appreciate you coming in here and working for us. And, to me, that was fantastic. I love that. I'd love to do something in the firearms industry because I have that passion there and I have that drive. And I'm a quick learner, so we'll see how that goes. But I really enjoy that time. Not getting up super early in the morning, 5:30 to make sure I'm at work before 7 a.m. and that kind of stuff. So it's been nice. It's been peaceful. It's been relaxing. It's been a huge weight lifted off of me, knowing that I have that pension and that retirement, and I'm enjoying it so far. I like it.
Hell yeah. No, I'm really happy for you. Like, when I got the invite to go up to your retirement party, I was blown away. And it was half was all your firefighting buddies, and then the other half, well, we'll break it into thirds. A third was your firefighting buddies, a third was your family, and then the other third was all your shooting buddies. And it was just really cool just to see the interactions and to meet new people.
Well, they wanted to have like a retirement ceremony at work and that kind of stuff. And I thought, if I do something like that, I can't bring my family. I can't bring my blood family. I can't bring my shooting friends' family. It's just a logistical nightmare to try to do that. So I thought to myself, you know what? I don't want to do something at work. I want to do something in my house. So my wife said, well, what do you want to do? I said, I want to just have a good old fashioned cookout at the house. I want my family to come up and, because I see a lot of my family maybe once a year at Christmas time. My aunt will host a gathering and we'll all go down there and, you're traveling a couple hours to get to see folks. You don't see them all the time. So I've been trying to do like a summertime get together to bring everybody together at least twice a year. Once my mom died, my uncle, my godfather, recently passed away from cancer. So I thought to myself, you know what, we got to see each other a lot more than that. So I said I want to cook out. I want my shooting friends, I want my work friends, and I want my family to be here. So you kind of got exposed to a little bit of my crazy family. um, they're unique sometimes. So hopefully they behave themselves
Oh yeah,
in a
no,
way that wasn't too bad.
no. I
My
thought
wife always.
I thought one of the coolest things was it was I was about to leave and I was saying my goodbyes and then was it your sister or your niece that came up with their baby and first time you said in like a year she's actually wanted something to do with you
Yeah.
and you were able to just stand there and hold her and you're like, I'm not going to let go of her until it's like time to let go of her because this is the most interaction of her wanting to come and do something with
Right.
me.
Yeah, when she was a baby, man, like my cousin, so it's my cousin's daughter.
Yeah.
He's a first responder. Well, he's getting ready to have him and his wife are pregnant again the second time. So of course their first kid, everybody's overprotective of their first kid. So when my uncle passed, I was holding her at the funeral home, and I kind of sat down in the chair and I kind of tucked myself away, and I watched as his wife paced back and forth looking for her. And I
Mhm.
kind of chuckled because, I'm holding her this whole time where she's just being good, just sitting there. And then as she got a little older, it had been a little while since we've seen each other. And it's like, I said, come here, Riley. And she wanted nothing to do with me, man. And that like broke my heart. So her first birthday, we were at her first birthday party. She wouldn't come to me at all. So when she was at the house, it took her a little while to warm up. But as soon as she came to me, I was like, yeah, I'm not letting you go. You're right. Yeah.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. But George, we've asked you a lot of questions and I'd like to take the opportunity to turn it over to you to bring up anything you'd like to talk about before we sign off. So, is there anything you'd like to let the listeners know?
Yeah, I'd like to know what you and Frank are getting ready, what you're preparing for. I know you have the Tactical Games team event coming up with Ian Norris.
Yep.
Ian was Marine Corps buddy of yours. You guys were in the same unit. Like you said, Ian's a firefighter, and Ian's kind of like my new travel partner. He'll call me up, or I'll call him up, and I'll say, hey, I'm thinking about this match, and he's like, all right, I'm in. So we room together, we fly out together, we share rental cars together, and that really helps. So I'm kind of jealous that you're partnering up with Ian for this match coming up, but I'm looking forward to you guys really rocking out. And I'm going to do everything I can to either get down there either Saturday or Sunday and watch you guys compete. One, because I love the tactical games. Two, because I love watching you guys shoot. And three, because I love the Peacemaker National Training Center. I think it's a fantastic venue. So I think it's going to be cool to have that there. But I'm interested in, what do you and Frank have coming up? Any matches that you're shooting soon that hopefully we cross paths again? Anything like that?
So, about this week, and we just mentioned,
Right.
then next month I got another tactical games.
Okay.
It's the individual one down at GTI. Then after that, I'm planning on doing the fall brawl. Well,
Okay.
I'm planning on going out to Tactical Games Nationals, and I'm going to finish off with fall brawl. And I have some locals sprinkled in between there and everything.
Right. Cool. Well, hopefully we cross paths at Fall Brawl. I'm definitely trying to be at that match. Yep. How
Frank,
about you, Frank?
For
You have
me,
a good US?
yeah, it's a bunch of USPSA stuff. I got Battle for the North Coast in Ohio this weekend, Area
Okay.
8. So I think it's up
Oh,
in
that's gonna.
your neck
Yeah,
of the
it's gonna be an
woods.
on Alani up there. Yep.
Yeah, I'm shooting Sunday with the rest of the shooting team. And then I got nationals in the beginning of September. And then after that, I need to change gears. I need to find another tactical games to go to. Actually, while you guys were talking, I was looking up flights to Mississippi for the one in February. I'm like,
Oh, down at Meridian.
yeah, I was like, why
Is it
not?
still down there? Yeah.
It's been iconic for so long. I feel like that's one of the ones that everyone has to
Yeah.
make their way to.
so
That's.
a friend and I were actually talking about that last night. I don't know if you know Patrick Court. He's a
No.
three-gun
Never mind.
guy from down in North Carolina. He shoots a lot of the Zoo City stuff. Him and I were talking, and he's going to be deploying soon. And And so the rest of his year is a wash. But he's like, I might shoot Meridian. I was like, well, shit, let's just try and go down the Meridian together. And so,
Right.
Frank,
I thought I was gonna have to twist your arm, but fuck it. Yeah, it's a 13-hour drive. Why not?
That's cool that that range hosts that tactical games match every year the same time. Because I know a lot of the tactical games matches have been hosted at different ranges, different parts of the country. But it's cool that it's kind of like a
Yeah.
legacy match at Meridian.
There's some OGs. So the one that Matt's going to next month, GTI, that's been around for a very long
Yeah.
time. That
Yeah.
Meridian, and I would say like a few of the ranges in Texas, but that's because that's where they're based out of. But yeah, no, those have had a lot of staying power, and they're linked to the legacy of the games for sure.
I did tactical games at GTI back in 21, I think. And they were still calling them battles back then. Are they still calling them battles now, or are they stages?
no,
now?
they're
Stages.
stages now.
So the reactor control room, they had like their long course that day was our second battle, and there was a fast rope. So we had an option to look at this fast rope, and I thought, holy crap, that thing is slicker than grease lightning. And I decided I was going to take the penalty run, instead of using this fast rope. What I didn't know was there were two fast ropes in there. And I went to get on the first one, and it's not like the gym rope that everybody's used to climbing, and the rope that they use for the tactical games. This thing was slicker than the cat's ass. When I grabbed a hold of it, before I could get my leg wrapped, I was dropping down like 8 feet
Oh,
into this
man.
gigantic tube, and it took the skin off of every one of my fingertips. And I'm looking at my hands like, oh, that's disgusting, because like it's just nothing but meat and dirt and grease
Yep.
all over my fingertips. And right away I'm thinking, all right, what kind of infection am I getting from this?
Yeah.
So I'm like, well,
Yeah.
I can't quit. I'm stuck in the middle of this thing. I got to crawl out. And I get out and I get outside, and then you have to send every one of these exterior ladders, and they must have 30 of them on this building. And I look over at my wife, and she's only been to like 3 matches to ever watch. And this was the second event. And I'm like holding my fingers up to her, and she doesn't understand what I'm doing. And I'm like, gosh, she doesn't know what I'm doing. I got to keep going. I can't quit. So I'm climbing these ladders, and I'm thinking, I hope, whoever's behind me doesn't touch any of this blood and
Oh.
pus and everything else that's coming out of my fingers. And I thought, that's brutal. And I was ready to quit. And I thought, I can't quit on day one. I got to go to day two. And day two, I show up and I looking around, and there's like 8 other guys in the Masters division that all have their hands wrapped up. And I thought, well, at least I'm not the only one, and we gutted it out. And, I didn't have a good performance there, but I didn't quit. So for me, that was a win because, that was probably one of the worst injuries I've ever had while shooting. And I tell you what, if you guys go back to GTI, be careful with the fast ropes there. Get your leg wrapped before you grab a hold of it with your hands. That's for sure.
So what you're saying is wear gloves whenever you're inside there.
So, what's funny is I had gloves, and since I thought, well, I'm opting out of the rope, I'm not going to take gloves. And I didn't hear them in the stage brief say there's 2 ropes. So here's a word of advice for new shooters. Pay attention to the written stage brief. Yeah.
One thing, I don't know if you have the time, September 9th, Quantico Shooting Club is hosting a 3-gun match. If you want to come down and shoot that, it's a 1 day, starts at 11, finishes at 5.
I would definitely love to do that, and I will check my calendar. I know my wife and I have a good bit of traveling come up. We're going to be heading out for my daughter's birthday and white coat ceremony for her nursing stuff. So we're going to be flying down to Charleston for that. And then we're going to Wilmington for my other daughter's white coat nursing thing in October. We're traveling to Memorial 3-gun match also in October. And then somewhere in between there, we're going to fit my wife's 50th birthday, and we're going to go take a nice vacation for that. So I will definitely check my calendar. That sounds like it's going to be a blast. I will definitely look into September 9th for that. I'd love to come down and shoot with you guys. I always hear you talk about the stages that are put on by the Marine Corps shooting team down there and how that match is set up. And I definitely love to come down and shoot that.
Heck yeah. Well, George, again, thank you for coming on. I really enjoyed this conversation, and I look forward to the next time we get to speak.
Yeah, I appreciate the opportunity to to talk to you and to Frank, and again, thank you for asking me the questions you did. Thank you for letting me go off on a couple tangents there and really promote that, help push that Tobin match. I know that wasn't something that we talked about, but when we started talking about the bourbon, I thought, man, I got to mention Tobin.
Yeah,
That was a guy who embodied the RO experience and giving back to the community, and to not talk about him would have been a shame. That was a good opportunity. So thank you for letting me spend a couple minutes talking about him.
absolutely. Well, I appreciate this. And to the listeners, we hope you enjoyed this episode. We hope you're enjoying all the episodes. If you are enjoying everything that we're putting on, please take the time and go ahead and rate and review us on whatever media platform that you use to listen to us. And we look forward to talking to you next time.
Yes, sir. Thanks, guys. I greatly appreciate it.
Sure.